Hi, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Today we will talk about our beliefs. We will cover what beliefs are, how our beliefs shape our behavior in our daily life, and more importantly, we will talk about what happens when our beliefs are violated. Meaning, what happens when we run into the evidence that rejects our belief or that counters our belief, how we react to that situation. Beliefs are much more important than we may realize. Gandhi said that beliefs shape our thoughts, or they give rise to our thoughts, and our thoughts dictate our actions shape our character, and our character dictates our destiny. So in a way, our beliefs shape our destiny, our beliefs define who we are. So what are beliefs? One way to understand beliefs is that beliefs help answer the question how things are supposed to be. So we human beings, we do not like uncertainties. We would rather like things to be certain. We hate uncertainties. We would like to avoid it. We go to great lengths to avoid uncertainty. We would rather want things to be certain. We would also want things to be better, but we prefer things to be certain. Even if it's for worse, we would rather want to know beforehand. If we know beforehand, then we can prepare. So that way, we want certainty in all aspects of our life. So beliefs are a type of evolutionary adaptation. So we have multiple evolutionary adaptations that help us deal with uncertainty, that help us avoid uncertainty in some sense. So beliefs kind of help us answer the questions how things are supposed to be. So that in a way helps us make things more certain, because now with beliefs we have this answer, we have this idea how things are supposed to be, we have this idea beforehand, even before we have encountered experiences, we have expectations, we have some notion that how things are supposed to be before we encounter the experience or the thing. So that it minimizes uncertainty, because we know now that how it's going to be. Now this doesn't mean we always know actually how things are supposed to be, but when it comes to our behavior, it's all about perceptions. We really do not have to know how things are supposed to be, but as long as we think we know how things are supposed to be, then that helps us, that kind of soothes us, that calms us down, that reduces the uncertainty. And reduction of uncertainty means reduction of anxiety. Because when we don't know things for sure, it makes us anxious. So even if we may not know for sure, but if we perceive that how things are supposed to be, that helps us. So how beliefs start? They start mainly when we come across a new piece of knowledge. When we read something, when we read a fact, or when someone tells us about something. So for example, you came to know that people in Greece are supposed to be laid back. Of course, Greece is a European country. So let's say you heard it somewhere for the first time. Now, when you hear something for the first time, it kind of sows the seeds of the belief. The beliefs start there. What happens to that belief will depend on your subsequent experience after having acquired that knowledge. Meaning, let's continue with this example. You heard somewhere that people in this country are laid back. People in some country are supposed to be a particular kind. Now, if you hear that knowledge, if you come across that knowledge few more times, let's say someone else tells you that, okay, yes, people in Greece are supposed to be laid back, then what happens is that reinforces the belief, as it's easy to understand. And the more you come across the corroborating evidence that reinforces the belief, the stronger the belief becomes. But if you keep hearing the counter evidence more, if you keep coming across the piece of knowledge where that does not corroborate the initial idea that people are supposed to be laid back in Greece, then that belief may not become very strong. So the strength of the belief depends on how much reinforcement you get. So we have beliefs about things and places, but we also have beliefs about ourselves, as well as we have beliefs about people close to us. We have beliefs about our friends, family. And more importantly, what happens is we are not aware of many of our beliefs. You may have belief about yourself that you are we all have doubts about ourselves, right? We have doubts that we may fail. We are not a very capable person. We may have those beliefs and we may not even realize at times. Or we may have strong belief that we can achieve anything that we set out to. So now let's talk about the case where your belief is violated. So there are many different strategies that we end up employing when our beliefs are violated, but I'm going to talk about two of them. You would think that we are a rational animal, and when our beliefs are violated, maybe we put things into perspective. Maybe we become more flexible, and we may think that our beliefs should not be maybe as strong as we think they are. But that's not how we approach most of the time. So let me give you examples to make it clear. Let's say you have a sibling, a brother or a sister, and you have a belief that you are smarter than your sibling. Now, one of the measures of smartness is a grade on a test, the test results. Let's say you both end up taking the same test and you end up getting a lower grade than your sibling. Now, when you see the results, you see that your belief was violated. When you come across the results for the first time, it's very unsettling. So what do? You don't necessarily think rationally that, okay, this means you may not be the absolute smarter person than your sibling. You may think that, but that's not what we tend to think. Instead, what happens is we start having thoughts that defend our beliefs. So this is very important. This is not a conscious process. Your belief is that you are smarter than your brother or sister. The test results are not proving that. They are the opposite. So rather than thinking rationally, you think along the lines where you try to defend your belief. So you come up with excuses. You try to think of things like maybe there was an unfair advantage. Maybe you didn't have enough time to prepare. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep compared to your sibling for preparation. The key is that this is a subconscious process. That's very important. You have to understand that you do not kind of consciously scheme up all these things. What happens is there's a subconscious urge to defend your belief. You do not like your belief getting violated. So there is a technical term for this, cognitive dissonance, and there is this urge to maintain the consistency, to maintain the validity of the belief. And some people say that urge is very strong, and it is similar to the urge of hunger and things like that. So that urge drives you to think along the lines where you try to defend that. You're not necessarily consciously defending it, or you may be, but there will be an urge that you'll feel, subconscious urge that will drive you to think along the lines where you'll try to defend the belief. So that's important. So you will make up all the excuses. You may kind of lower the importance of the outcome to maintain the belief. Means you have the belief that you are smarter than her, and if the test results are proving the other way, then you may say that, okay, that test is not so important, that test is not relevant, and things like that. But you try to defend your belief. So that's one thing. You may try to kind of come up with excuses, or you may try to think along the lines where you may change the attribution. Means you may decrease the importance of the evidence or something like that. You may think that the test is not as important or something like that. The test is not relevant to the smartness or something like that. Now that's a little bit bizarre, but still understandable because you're driven by that urge. And there is even a more bizarre version of this, the more bizarre choice that we end up making. That's complete ignorance of the evidence. Means subconsciously, when we encounter the counter evidence, we just turn a blind eye. There's an invisible force that kind of erases the memory of that. Although it may sound a bit dramatic, but we end up ignoring that. For example, let me give you another example. Let's say you have a belief that certain part of your city is very safe to live, and that is a relatively strong belief, and you use that belief to take action. Let's say you buy a house, or you move into that area, you rent a place in that area. Now, once you get vested in your beliefs become much stronger. Now that belief is much stronger. Your urge to defend that belief is much stronger now, because you have taken action based on that belief. So now with that very strong belief, let's say you come across some article or some news where you find out that the area that you have moved in is not really that safe. Let's say you see that, you come across that evidence. Then as soon as you see that evidence, again, it will be very unsettling. The urge will kick in, and you may just completely ignore that. The whole news item, you may just kind of move on subconsciously. That urge kind of, again, that invisible force. The invisible force is nothing but the urge. The urge kind of kicks in because you detect inconsistency. The urge tries to remove inconsistency. The dissonance, it tries to remove that dissonance. So you may just ignore the evidence and move on. And just like that, this may happen in other aspects as well. Sometimes the belief is so strong, we become oblivious to the counter evidence and we just move on. Not consciously. That's the key. We don't do this consciously. We don't think that, okay, I see that my belief is getting violated, I don't like it, so I'm going to do this. No, it's not like that. This urge of consistency is it's a subconscious force. It's kind of a deep-rooted force which we may not be aware most of the time. So this is how beliefs drive us to make irrational choices. So the question is, what do we do? How do we fix this? I mean, when you do this, it may help you feel less unsettling, but it may be setting you up for more problems later on if you ignored something, or you just are like trying to defend your beliefs which are not really true. Now you may have a lot more questions that how do we form the beliefs which are not really true to begin with? And there are many ramifications here, I understand that, but we cannot address all of them here. We'll try to address them one by one. So let's talk some of the things where we can probably address this. Again, it's an urge, so it's very difficult to address. You can see that it's like hunger, similar to hunger, maybe not as strong. So the rational actions, or the pure will, the intention, does not help that much. You may have realized that. That's why we struggle with weight loss and things like that, right? It's very difficult for us to keep our weight in control, because that's an innate, inherent urge. That's the older brain urge. That's very hard to counter with pure will or rational thinking. We just cannot do that. It's difficult. But still, that doesn't mean that it just won't work. We can try to get in touch with this process. We can do self-inquiry. When we feel unsettling in certain situations, or when we are with other people, we may try to inquire within what's going on. Why do you feel bad in the presence of others' company, or in the presence of a particular person? What's going on? Maybe you have some beliefs about that person. So you can do that inquiry. The other thing you can do is use awareness. The awareness is the magic formula to catch many of the subconscious behaviors. Default awareness is not strong enough to make you realize what's going on subconsciously. But the awareness skill can be developed, it can be refined through meditation, where you catch your subconscious processes. So if you cultivate awareness, that can help you get in touch with your relationship to what happens when your beliefs are violated, or it can help you get in touch with your beliefs. Because if you know your beliefs more, then maybe you can become more flexible. So some of the things like self-inquiry and awareness can help deal with the dissonance. And there may be other things that can be helpful as well. So feel free to comment. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post your questions in the forum, and I look forward to discussing those with you. And thanks again for watching this video.